so much. It's the not just the disease itself, but it's also the fact that one, of course, people don't know who's going to get it next. Two, is the social isolation that has been very devastating for a lot of people, as we discussed last week. And then I got some definite websites that have this about how dangerous that can be, add to the problems health-wise and suppress the immune system. And I found something from, what was it, cancercare.org. Had a really nice article online about what can happen to people who are forced to be isolated so long. It can cause other problems, anxiety, depression, have terribly bad effects on the immune system.
Yeah, you were talking about that before.
As we discussed already, I want to cite somebody else. It's not just me. I already know. But silencemag.org also the same
Especially
thing.
people who are alone, the seniors and all that. You have to be careful. Make sure that you're helping them. If you know of somebody, just call them or get online. A lot of people are using social media. They may not have social media, but like my mom, she's learned about social media and all that, phones and texting and all that. Now she's the texter of the family. She loves texting. So, teach them how to do that, because we all have to have phones. We don't have those public phones that you would have to pay for before. You have to have a cell phone these days, no matter what, at what age you are. So, her grandkids, my niece and nephew, have taught her how to use one. So she's getting, she's catching up with technology and all that. So she's using her new cell phone, and she's texting me and all that, and just learning, and just let somebody know, hey, you can use your phone to text me and communicate with me, and anything that's going on, and if you need some help, let me know. Just there's a lot of deliveries today, online deliveries. People are ordering things online, so you don't have to starve. You can order things and they'll leave it in front of your house. Just find ways of keeping someone who might be totally alone and afraid at this time, of what's going on with the coronavirus. Help them out, and so we all have to do our part. Family members and friends, people that we know, so try and find out who they are and help out. So I think you can make a positive change that way. Even if, like I said, even if you just communicate with them, just talk to them and see what's going on.
The phone call was becoming important again. The phone, itself.
Yeah.
Not just texting. People want to hear a human voice.
Right.
It's not anymore just to have a little silent communication. It was fast and easy. But now people want to hear someone on the other end of the phone. And they want to talk to a real person. And they miss the human contact. That's what I was reading about on one of those websites, cancercare.org, for instance. So that disease exists too. And people with other illnesses who are going through those things, plus facing the coronavirus, the COVID-19. So they have a lot to deal with besides their own existing conditions, plus worried about that. And then the isolation has hit people, like in the nursing homes,
right?
Where they can't get visitors in anymore, and they were suddenly just shut off from the world. And so that was what we talked about last time, and where I did look up cancercare.org, and also, as I mentioned, not sciencemag.org, but where they talk about the negatives, but then lead from there, I think, up to the positive things that are going on, where, right, like you said, Theresa, there are churches reaching out to their congregations by phone and text, and actually going to see people, or at a safe social distancing way, dropping off items that they need, and calling anyway, if nothing else. But there's no substitute for the real. People are learning this now, and maybe it's a good lesson for the millennials, who love the tech. That there's no real substitute for human warmth and a touch, and a hug, and a real conversation face to face. Technology just doesn't cut it. Doesn't really have the impact that does have.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson people are learning. That long-distance communication isn't really what we need as human beings. So I was looking that up on all those sites, but anyway, and we know this too, but the whole point is leading from the negative to the positives. What are people doing? Well, in Stotts, as I mentioned, you have 3 churches at least. There's First Baptist Church has an ongoing project. They're working all the time with workers dressed safely with masks and gloves, and going out and not only taking contributions from Bread of Life, the food bank or the organization that provides food.
That's who you're involved with, right? The Bread of Life.
Yeah, and they did that
Right.
on Saturday. I'll tell you, Theresa, it was amazing. The people were lined up in cars. I was donating bags of food with friends, but there were people lined up in cars, Theresa, wearing masks and all that, where they were actually taking the food items in bags and boxes to go all over Stockton and distribute them. And this has been going on Wednesdays and Saturdays, I know of, other days too. And they're going personally to these doors and dropping off
Right, just dropping them off, or at least, yeah, in the front doors.
It's an ongoing thing. And then this is something that if you do feel lonely and distanced, if you get involved in some ways like that, just by go out shopping, buying an extra can of food and donating and getting, drove to their parking lot, the community center at First Baptist Church. It's located at 33 West Alpine Avenue. It's called the Community Center. Their main address is 3535 North Del Rio. They've expanded. But this goes on all the time with them, plus other things. They've visited the police department, taken pizza. They've created all 3 hospitals, and been supportive of the healthcare staff and workers, and they deliver pizzas to all of the fire departments. I mean, how about that?
Mm-hmm.
So you can get involved in voluntary ways with other people at a distance, or just by donating. And then Quail Baptist Church had a really nice thing where they had a parade, and that's an uplifting thing to do.
How's that parade? What kind of parade is it?
That was called Go Lift Our Healthcare Workers. It was a Go project, April 23rd,
Mm-hmm.
and it helped the people who are feeling alone and isolated perhaps to get out and do something positive. And so a lot of people got together in their cars.
Oh, in their cars. Okay.
In their cars, and drove past all 3 of the local hospitals, St. Joseph's, Dameron, and of course went out to San Joaquin General Hospital. And they all were asked, please make signs. And
yeah, that would be fun, huh? Having a parade.
And telling them about how much they appreciated them. And the healthcare workers came outside to take a look. And the patients could hear this going on. And there was music in the background. People were singing at a distance away from the hospitals, but providing music and entertainment.
There you go, yeah. Parades are fun, and you can stay in your car. There doesn't have to be any human contact.
And they made signs, so that was a way of getting active and being creative and doing something
creative.
Positive. And that was a fantastic parade to all 3 hospitals. As I said, the church donated $1,000 in honor of each hospital's staff.
Oh.
And people were baking cakes on top of that. A lot of people baked cakes, and each hospital staff member at Dameron and St. Joseph was given a slice of cake.
Oh,
and that's how you get involved in doing something nice for somebody else. If you're home alone, bake a cake.
Uh-huh.
And so they donated the slices of cakes to Dameron and St. Joseph, but they gave a gift card to the staff at San Joaquin General. But that was a lot of activity. At one time, April 23rd, a bit of a great big event. And I think they have more planned coming up, other activities going on. But it's been slow, understandably. They can't do too much. They took a chance to go out and do this. So that and Lifelong Church has been active for a long time, Theresa, with they were actually part of they helped found and organize the Bread of Life. So, they're an amazing church, too, and they had partnered with the Quail Baptist Church and First Baptist Church. But that began way back during the other economic downturn, I believe. A lady started it. So, I mean, you have all of these positive things you can do on the flip side, the opposite end of loneliness. Reaching out in some way through your church, or figure something else you can do. If you're living alone,
giving out clothes. If you don't have clothes, you can deliver them too.
Yeah, get involved, and there's something you can do possibly through your church or on your own. You can think of something you might be able to get involved with. But the churches are not submerged, as I was telling the pastors over there. I was hoping to share this, though they're not meeting together, and that does create quite a problem for a lot of people who rely on that, for their support, emotional support, and to get out, especially elderly people. That's true. But there are things you can do, and they have been very active in the community, not just sitting back, and they're not seen so much, you're not getting together in a building. They have really been out there doing things to make the community better, be supportive, and give that encouragement and hope and prayer out to the community. So I have to give them a commendation for that. The ones who've done this, and those three stand out to me right now. Especially First Baptist, it's just an ongoing effort with them. We were behind a line of cars, as I said, Theresa, on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to donate. We got in a big line, and there's so many people who want to do this. And they were ready to take everything out all over Stockton. And we were given a number, and then the person with me said, no, we're here to donate bags of food. But no, I mean, people are just so involved, and they want to. And that's just amazing to me how many are getting involved. People who don't have to take their time, but are doing it. So those are three major things I think that come to mind that are positive things that are coming out of all of this too. Helping their neighbors. Everybody's not being selfish and grabbing everything off the shelves in the stores. There are a lot of good people out there. So that's one thing we can lead into from the negative to the positive. And whatever else you want to share in Maryland and everybody else, the things you know about in the community, jump in there. I'm Theresa. It's just my
We need to find out. We need to share. Yeah, we need to share how to go about this, coming together to organize these things, like online, because you can use social media like we're doing right now to organize these things. Maybe forming groups on Facebook to deliver foods and clothes and that sort of thing, and just organize it between a few people, that can do this and connect with those that are needy. I know I haven't been able to, because I usually give clothes and things that I don't need to Goodwill and Salvation Army. But right now, from what I understand, it's just like nothing's happening. It's just I saw a picture the other day of donations and people. I guess they must have gotten into all the clothes and just making a mess of everything. Nothing, so a lot of businesses are closed, even the nonprofits, right? So, so taking it on, and like you were saying, just going to door, bringing food, baking, bringing clothes, things like that would be very nice and something positive to help those in need.
I had to tell you, you asked me last week, and I want to keep what I'm thinking about. I did verify that St. Mary's Dining Hall is still open. You asked me if they were still serving meals.
Right.
Well, I called, and they said, yes, they are. They're a restaurant, but they're an emergency,
So how are they doing it? Like most restaurants?
So,
how are they doing it?
What they're doing, no. The people, the seniors and families are allowed inside, but they have to sit 6 feet apart, social distancing. And then they have a to-go program where they hand to other people. But the families and seniors are allowed inside. And they can sit down and have the 3 meals a day, warm meals a day. And the rest of the people who come up, non-family members or non-seniors, are just given boxes of meals. Like a takeout.
Yeah, St. Mary's amazing.
And that's another thing. They answer the phone, they're there, and they are serving those meals. So another actively involved organization, and of course, Paulette gave $1,000 to them, plus the Emergency Food Bank and Bread of Life, and the people at First Baptist are going down there and volunteering their time, serving those meals.
Yeah, I volunteer at St. Mary's.
But they're out there.
Yeah, I've gone to St. Mary's to help out. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, have you?
Yeah, I've gone over there.
What I mean, it was still it didn't stop. It didn't end because restaurants are closed. It's not considered a restaurant, but they are being cautious. So no, it's still very active, and it's still producing those things. And interactions going on. You call them on the phone, they'll tell you right out. They're very friendly staff. Yes, and if you need that help to go. So no, they're not. People are not shut off who are in need, and that's just really a wonderful thing that's going on here in Stockton, California.
It is. St. Mary's is awesome. They're awesome. They're always open 365 days of the year, 24/7. They're always, taking donations. They're, I guess they're keeping up with all the social distancing policy and what's required. Wearing masks and the 6 feet. Making sure that everybody's staying there. Keeping distance between each other and, using gel and washing your hands and all that's important. So I'm glad that they're still open. That's wonderful. I wish they would accept clothes and other things. Do you know if they accept clothes? I think they might, huh?
We don't know about that right now. I think just the food program, which is a good thing. I
Yeah,
didn't ask about the clothing, but no, they definitely have the meals going on though.
that's good.
So that's important. People are not going hungry. And we want to mention, I'd like you to end the show in a way with your song. I played it the other night, Theresa, on YouTube. I found On the Lord.
Oh, I love
Oh, that's
that.
such a lovely video.
I love
And
it.
I think a wonderful thing that you could do for this program if you could just sing that. You know, when
I
I
will.
mentioned the silent minute, I was going to talk about the silent. There's our music. A silent minute. Remember, the minute of the silent minute I
I
want to
didn't
talk
think of that.
about that was started back in England in the 1940 during World War II.
Right.
Is a thing that we want to revive. Vicki Gardner Taylor, be sure I mention her because she's the one who's trying to revive it here in Stockton at 6 p.m. But it began in 1940. We'll talk about that a little bit about that. It was started by Major Wesley Tudor Pole, and he was a high-ranking officer in the United Kingdom. But he brought it forward to Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister during World War II, during that terrible thing going on. The war was a terrible, horrible experience, and during the Blitz, and they were all alone. But he suggested, it was suggested to him by a friend during World War I, who had a permission he wouldn't get through it, a battle, that maybe that he'd do that, and that he wouldn't be alone. It was very powerful, he said. And so he decided that he would bring it forward when the Blitz began and the country was being bombarded. And Churchill agreed, and he put it before his parliamentary cabinet, and they agreed to. And it was voted into actually a kind of a law, but it was put on the BBC radio. There's radio, what it can do for you. That's all they had really back then. And you could hear Big Ben. They decided they would have Big Ben chime strike the hour at 9 o'clock. And that was a time when everybody was to bow their heads for the silent minute in prayer and meditation, and just focus on praying for peace and that the war be diverted from their country, because they were very much alone on it. France had been invaded, most of the European countries had been taken over, and they were being bombarded by these planes. And the interesting thing, Priest, about that is that later on, many years later, and I looked it up and I can read it on the air just to tell you about it, a high-ranking German official said that, and this was a direct quote from him, that there was something that was going on long after the war ended. Why weren't they invaded? They never were. And they've been praying for this every night. And it went on to the 1950s, really, Theresa, but it was really important back then. And they talked to one of the German high-ranking officials, and this is a real quote. And he said, so how this happened? Why weren't they invaded? And he said, you had a secret weapon for which we had no countermeasure, and which we could not understand. But it was very powerful. It was associated with the striking of Big Ben each evening. I believe it was called the Silent Minute. And that was from a German, long after the war ended. He talked about that. They knew later on, and they didn't. Something about that was so powerful. We're talking about a spiritual situation here, but something about that people believe that really that God prevented that country from being invaded. That we joined forces with them as allies not long after that, but they were very much alone in the war at that time. So until the mid-1950s, Theresa, it went on, and we're trying to revive it out here. Our Lady really has been working on it through social media, Vicki Gardner Taylor. And it was revived after that, when it ended in the 1950s in England, the United Kingdom. But briefly, there was an organization called the Big Ben, Silent Minute Big Ben Charity through Dorothy Forrester, but that kind of came and went. It may still exist, I'm not sure. And then out here in America, they had a grassroots movement in 2015 to revive it, to reflect about our country. But now it's becoming more of an idea to have that moment out here in California and back east, 3 hours later and so forth, which in Florida would be 9 o'clock, to bow our heads and have that, revive that moment of meditation and pray for the people who are going through this pandemic crisis. And they think it's very powerful. It's a way of having unity, and again, not feeling so alone.